long and lonely highway, one evening a man was becoming weary as he was multiple days into a lengthy road trip. As the evening got darker, he got more and more tired. Eventually, he saw a hotel with a vacancy sign on the side of the road and pulled over into the parking lot. After he parked, he entered the building that seemed as if it had been built 100 years ago, when the area was an oil boom town. After pulling the creaky door shut, he went up to the reception counter and rung the bell for service. After a few moments, the old balding man with gray hair and a long chin came out and introduced himself as the night clerk. The traveler asked the clerk for a room. The clerk responded uncertainly, "We do have one vacancy left, room 13. But I would feel remiss if I didn't offer a warning. We have had many reports from previous guests that it is haunted." The man, exhausted on this last leg of his road trip, answered, exasperated, "I don't care about superstitious nonsense. I'll take the room." The old night clerk unlocked the key case and grabbed the only key hanging within, a key with a bow in the shape of a skull. The clerk exchanged the key for the traveler's check the man offered, and the traveler went on his way down the hall to room 13. After entering, he closed the door, put his suitcase by the chair closest to the door, and collapsed on the bed to drift into a deep sleep. At midnight, the alarm on the clock went off. The man, angry, hit the clock until he found the switch to turn it off. As he looked around, he noticed that there was a strange light over the coffee table on the other side of the room. He slowly got up and crept towards the table to see that the light was shining on a large pile of money. As the man reached out his hand towards the money, he heard a raspy voice from behind him that said, "I'm the ghost of Abel, and I say the money stays on the table." Shocked and now fully awake, the man quickly grabbed his suitcase and ran out the door, down the hall, and jumped into his car to drive off into the night. The next day, down the same long and lonely highway, a gruff bodybuilder was riding his motorcycle after a competition. As the evening wore on, he became more and more tired. Eventually, he saw the same motel and pulled over. After parking his motorcycle, he went through the old door, approached the reception counter, and rung the bell for service. The same night clerk came out and greeted the new guest. As the bodybuilder requested a room, the night clerk warned once again, "We do have one vacancy left, room 13, but I would feel remiss if I didn't offer a warning. We have had many reports from previous guests that it is haunted." The bodybuilder, wiped out from his competition, answered in his gruff voice, "I'm not afraid of nothing. I'll take the room." The old night clerk unlocked the key case and grabbed the key hanging within. The same key with a bow in the shape of a skull, the skeleton key. The clerk exchanged the key for the wad of cash the man offered, and the bodybuilder went on his way down the hall to room 13. After entering, he closed the door, put his duffel bag by the dresser closest to the door, hit the shower, and then collapsed on the bed to drift into a deep sleep. At midnight, the alarm on the clock went off. The bodybuilder, confused, slapped the clock until he found the switch to turn it off. As he looked around, he noticed the strange light over the coffee table on the other side of the room. After stretching, he stood up and walked towards the table to see that the light was shining on a large pile of money. As the bodybuilder reached out his hand towards the money, he heard a raspy voice from behind him that said, "I'm the ghost of Abel, and I say the money stays on the table." Giving a short yelp, The man quickly grabbed his duffel bag and sprinted out the door, down the hall, and jumped onto his motorcycle to ride off into the night. The day after, down a now familiar long and lonely highway, a baby was riding a tricycle. As the evening wore on, the baby became more and more tired and slightly grumpy. Eventually, the baby saw the now familiar hotel with its vacancy sign and pulled his tricycle over next to the door. The baby entered through the old door and waddled up to the reception counter to ring the bell for service. The now familiar night clerk came out to the desk and looked left, then right. Eventually, the baby coughed and said, "Down here." And the clerk looked down, surprised, and greeted the new guest. The baby said, "I'd like a room, please." And the night clerk once more gave his familiar warning. "We do have one vacancy left, room 13. But I would feel remiss if I didn't offer a warning. We've had many reports from previous guests that it is haunted." The baby, more than ready for his nap, replied, "I ain't afraid of no ghosts. I'll take the room." The old night clerk unlocked the key case and grabbed the familiar skeleton key hanging within and handed it over to the baby, who then grabbed its diaper bag and toddled down the hall to room 13. After entering and closing the door, it dropped its diaper bag by the doorway and then pulled itself onto the bed to drift into a nap. At midnight, the alarm on the clock went off. The baby, blinking and rubbing his eyes, hit the clock, knocking it on the floor, and accidentally stopped the alarm. As the baby looked around, there was the familiar strange light over the coffee table on the other side of the room. The baby slid off the bed and waddled towards the table to see that the light was shining on the large pile of money. The baby quickly snatched the money and stuck it in its diaper, immediately after hearing the raspy voice proclaim, "I'm the ghost of Abel, and I say the money stays on the table." The baby, scrunching its eyebrows together, shouted its reply, "Well, I'm the ghost of Peter Piper, and I say the money stays in my diaper." And that is the story of the ghost of Abel.